Hello everyone, I am Silly Squirrel.
And I am Master Rein.
And we are ReviveMeBroGames, a gaming podcast where two best friends discuss cooperative games, multiplayer games, and so much more. What's up, Master Rein?
Yo, doing well, my friend. Just coming out of a weekend of, dad duties. So after the last podcast, those duties pretty much kicked in.
Yeah. You sent me a lot of messages of like, basically you were being held hostage by your kid.
Yep.
Oh,
absolutely.
Boy. Yeah, that's gonna be mean, huh? A lot sooner than later. Yeah.
Not too long here.
Yeah. Well, probably once this podcast comes out, I might be in the thick of it. Who knows?
Wow, that'd be insane. That'd be wild.
Yeah, that's something to think about.
Wish him luck. Send him some love.
Thank you. Anyway, but I've noticed you've been playing a lot of Hyrule Warriors on the stream.
You. It's fun.
Did you quit? Did you quit on Dead Space, bro? Like, why are you not playing Dead Space, bro?
Yeah, I was playing it for Halloween, but I had no Halloween, I had no vacation, no time, pretty much. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah. As you noticed, a lot of you noticed I wasn't even streaming those days.
True. That's very true. I got to stream a little bit of Condemned. Those few days.
What happened to Alien Isolation, by the way?
We don't talk about Alien Isolation. So Condemned.
Don't say.
No. We don't talk about Alien Isolation. Look, dude, I just cleaned my underwear. Okay, like that's as much as I'm gonna say.
No, you don't have to explain it.
So I've been playing Condemned, and I'm pretty sure I'm one stream away from beating it. So hopefully I'll do that. Hopefully, again, by the time you listen to this podcast, I would have done that already.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But yeah, dude. So I am really excited for today's podcast. If you already read the title, we're gonna be reviewing a small game, that's just out there named Gundam Evolution. If you're an anime fan, this is basically like the Star Wars of your world. Like Gundam is a huge IP
Overwatch.
in Japan. Yeah, no, but like Gundam as the IP,
Oh, sure.
So this new game came out a few 2 months ago, kind of, right? I think it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, just about. I think, yeah.
Just about 2 months ago, and we've been playing it a lot for many. Actually, we've played this more than we have Overwatch 2. Yeah. It's been a lot. I'll say it right now. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to this review. And
it's
before
been sweaty as well. Huh.
Oh, dude, yes. Very, very much so. Very exciting. But before we get into the thick of it, and also before we introduced our phenomenal guest, we'll do a quick PSA for the pod. We are available anywhere you get your podcasts. If you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. It's free and it helps us support the pod. Plus, we are giving away free merch. All you got to do is send us a screenshot of your 5-star review to our email or social media with your name and address, and we will send the goods wherever you are. Seriously, wherever you are. If you're in Wales, wink, wink, we will send you these stickers. Also, like, we have a few friends in Nicaragua. They're getting their stickers all around the U.S.
Yeah.
Yep, a little shout out here. But yeah, it's just to give you guys an example. Here is a great review we got from Nika9375. And it says, Master Rein and Silly Squirrel do a great job of walking you through each gaming-related topic. They are accessible but not afraid to go deep in what makes certain games great. If you're a casual, don't worry. They will guide you down the path and return you safely. They also bring in guests when their expertise is lacking, which is awesome to see. Thank you again so much, Nika9375, for that. Hopefully you're enjoying your stickers. And also remember to check out our YouTube page with our latest streams and, of course, the podcast. So, yep, go give us a like and subscribe.
Yeah. Yo, fun fact, the Nicaraguans are basically the lost Atlanteans. So if you're searching for them, it's basically the Nicaraguans. Fun fact.
The middle of America, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. It's the heart of America. Do I need to make myself any clearer? Anyways, that's a conspiracy theory for later.
But yeah, let's go on and introduce our our guest who must be dying to start talking, uh, and for us to shut up. So the one, the only Cochino Nasty.
CochinoNasty.
What's up, Cochino Nasty? How you doing?
What's up, guys?
So if you've
What's
been
up,
checking out our
yo?
streams, Cochino Nasty's been basically our partner, our player three, our commanding officer whenever we're playing Gundam Evolution. Like
That's
he's
Gundam
been
right, bro. That's
hey,
Gundam right.
he's we've known him for quite some time now, and we've been dying to get him in the podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Cochino Nasty, for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Really waiting to
Sir.
get. I've been really waiting to get the right topic for you, and I felt like this was like right up
Yeah.
your alley for
Perfect. Yep.
obvious reasons. You know, like Cochino Nasty here really loves anime, plus of course video games and a few other things too. And so like when I was thinking of like the games we play and stuff, it's like man, I really just want him to like. I really want Cochino Nasty to just be part of a conversation where it's like
He
it's an
really
IP that he
wants
loves, you know.
CochinoNasty.
So, how you been, Cochino Nasty? How you doing, brother?
I've been good. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, the pleasure's all ours, man. The pleasure's all
Yes,
ours.
sir. Yes, sir.
Cochino Nasty. So, before we dive into the review, we usually ask a few questions to our guests, just so that our audience can get to know them, get to know the guests a little bit more in depth. So, what are your top three favorite games? And this doesn't have to be in order. You know, like it can be any order you want. But what are your top three favorite games and why?
Okay. And why? So, I would say one of my top three games is Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. It's
Mm-hmm.
just one of
Mm-hmm.
those games that kind of, mechanics wise, like, battle, like the way the fight system works. It's turn-based, but there's like kind of a lot of layers to it. There's like this whole knockdown system. It's really fun. It's also kind of like um, it's kind of like Pokemon on steroids. You can capture all these demons and fuse them
Mm-hmm.
together to make other demons. And the kind of like there's a visual novel and sort of like a social link aspect where you
Mm-hmm.
become stronger by getting to know some of the other characters and kind of like developing their relationships and stuff. So that's a really fun game, especially when I played it. I think I was just about to get married, so having
Woo.
kind of like this game to kind of remind you of like how your bonds with your friends and your family, they make you stronger, and it
That's
just kind of
awesome.
really
Yeah.
hit home during that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
story's pretty good too. Another game that I really like, I'm going to say Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 1. That was a game that
Oh,
really,
classic.
yeah, it really kind of hit me at the right time. I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I just really like kind of like the creativity of the world building. It got way too crazy after the first couple games, but yeah, that was kind of like a vibe that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just remember the Sephiroth fight being very awesome and iconic, and there's a side game where you build a gummy ship and you sort of
Oh
go around
yeah.
shooting stuff in space. That was a lot of fun.
That
Um,
was when you moved from one level to the next, right?
yeah, and you can customize your ship with these blocks that you find in the world and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that just kind of hit me in the right spot. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like building Legos, I guess, or building Gundams. I don't know. Uh,
Eh.
Yeah.
for my last game, I will say a little bit of recency bias. I'll say Elden Ring. Um,
Ooh.
that
Wow.
was just one of the best games I've ever played. It just
Wow.
from top to
That's
down, the
huge.
experience was really uh,
Solid.
exciting. And just kind of figuring out different ways to get around things. And once you hit your groove in that game, it just feels. so good. Just like everything's clicking on all cylinders, and you're just kind of really locking in on the boss animations and stuff. It can be a very frustrating game, but
Of
kind
course,
of getting
yeah.
past that is the fun part for me.
Kind of like building a Gundam.
Yeah.
Thank you again, CochinoNasty, for sharing that. We really appreciate it, and again, we appreciate you having you here. So let's get to it. So what is Gundam Evolution? And according to Wikipedia, Gundam Evolution is a team-based shooter where two opposing squads with 6 players each combat one another as they seek to perform opposing objectives on the map. These objectives vary depending on the game mode. Modes include point capture, where players must attempt to attack and capture points on the map from the defending team. Domination, which has both teams attempt to capture 3 points on the map. That's probably my favorite mode. And destruction, which has teams trying to activate or stop a weapon of mass destruction that the other team is trying to use against them. So, long story short, if you've ever played Overwatch, you'll be very familiar with some of the mechanics of Gundam Evolution. We're not saying that it's Overwatch, we're just making a comparison of sorts. Yeah, so it's a team-based shooter. If you play Team Fortress, Overwatch, you'll feel right at home. We'll just go with this. Like, what were your first impressions? Like, first time you played it, CochinoNasty, like, what were some of the impressions you got?
So I don't play a lot of FPS games in general. I didn't really grow up with them.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it was sort of learning how to do that for the first time. Or, well, I mean, I've played Halo and stuff back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
but not online, mostly just like house parties and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, and from my perspective, it's mostly just kind of not just learning a new game, but learning a new genre of games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you say that, how'd you felt like, going into Gundam Evolution, would you consider it like, was it hard to learn? Did you feel like you got the groove a lot quicker? Like what was that experience for you as someone that doesn't play FPS as often?
I think that f- from like a casual person's perspective, there's like a lot going on. There's everyone has to be very aware of the objective and kind of strive for it together. And
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't always happen sometimes when you're doing the casual matchmaking.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
get
facts.
kind of maybe tunnel vision on securing kills and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it took me a while to kind of get a handle on things, and even now I still feel like a pretty big skill gap. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh
it's
yeah.
one of those things where like, it's hard to brute force your way through the game, but eventually you pick up on a few things from just gathering experience. I think that it's in that regard the learning curve isn't too difficult, but yeah, more experienced Overwatch players definitely have a an advantage for sure.
So, like you said, it took a bit to get used to, I guess, the game and its mechanics. Uh,
Yeah.
I ca I agree. I think I mean Master Rain and I of course play a lot of first person shooters, so we kind of it was a little easier I guess for us to kind of understand what the game's about. But it did require a bit of an adjustment because just like you said, a lot of times some players would focus on getting like the kills when the game is not necessarily about that. Like, yeah, that's part of the game, but it's not necessarily how you win the game. And it kind of reminded me a bit of a Battlefield 1, where, Master Ray and I have talked ad nauseum on how much we liked how Battlefield Force, like, would reward you for playing objectives. And in this case, like the game is very much objective based. Like you have to capture this point, you have to hold this point, you have to defend this, you have to do that. So even though yeah, you can rack up the kills, like if you're not really doing the objectives, then you really don't get rewarded really that much.
Yeah, one
Like,
thing I noticed was
Hmm.
that even really skilled players can't really carry the team.
no, not at all.
So it becomes a matter of how the team is kind of composed and making sure the skill gap of one team isn't too much higher than the other one, but that doesn't always happen. Actually, it doesn't happen very often at all. And there's also,
Hmm.
I guess you could say, balance issues with some of the some of the mobile suits. Some are
Yeah, yeah.
clearly better than others, and yeah, and some are more difficult to use. I tend to use more
Yeah.
easier to use units, things that
Yep.
where I don't have to think about too much. Especially coming from my background of playing like a lot of single player games, RPGs,
Mm.
Super Smash Brothers, that kind of stuff. So that was the challenge for me for the first couple matches, and really the first couple days playing it. The game is a lot
Mm-hmm.
more fun when you play it with people on chat,
Oh
but
Mm.
yeah, big time.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah,
it's more
totally.
fun to be able to coordinate with your team, and it's
Big time.
almost
Oh
necessary.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
the flip side of that is that if you're in a party, I noticed that you start getting a lot more uh, disconnection issues and also just getting matched up with a lot harder
Yes.
teams.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get into that a little more down the line. But I think I definitely I appreciate the fact that you mentioned how like the first like when we first started, the game was pretty fresh, and Lord Almighty, some of the Gundams available, excuse me, were just completely OP, like completely OP. Like everyone was using Barbatos like
I
crazy.
think at that point too, there's something to say about the lack of understanding that new players have of the game because about a week
Totally,
later,
totally.
there was already like a way to counter Barbatos with one of the other Gundams that people started figuring it out.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right. Though. It totally feels like at the beginning of the game you're playing a certain way, and it's just like, oh yeah, those Gundams are just like smashing their way through, literally smashing their way through.
I think that first week, I remember my instinct, my instant go to was to find a Gundam that had like fast, um, like a fast gun or laser or whatever it is that they shoot, and
Yeah.
and like because I'm thinking like for the kills, right, to like go and kill them, but it's like after as the more and more we played, the more I'm like, no, like I really need to embrace the roles that each of the Gundams offer. You got your like once I found out like there's this one Gundam that was like he would heal and that he would boost the team members with his special. It's like okay,
Mm.
like I started focusing more on like my role in the team. Again, very a la Battlefield, but you started focusing more on the roles, and then at that point, someone else is like, hey, you know what? Okay, you're our medic. I'm gonna try doing this, and then the other person will be like, I'm gonna try doing that, and so it's like it starts you start complimenting each other, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the cool part where it's like now after a month or so, the group that we play with now have their mains, so to speak, and we play well with each other. Like, granted, it's still a bitch to win, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but we'll talk about that. But it's like at least it
Yeah. Yeah.
feels, at least I feel like we're trying. Like that's kind of part of the fun too. Like we're trying, we're there. Let's okay, we lost, but why? Let's try to change tactics
There's
and
a path to win, unless
yeah,
they're cheating,
I
which you
actually
have.
which the
feel
game
like
has cheats.
yeah, the game has a lot of cheese,
Yeah. Yeah. You
especially on
can
certain
find
maps.
them.
But I
Yeah.
think that actually there's more emphasis on the maps and how units how mobile suits do on certain maps and how effective their range is rather than their actual team role and stuff because almost all the mobile suits are pretty punchy. They can do a lot of damage,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there are some that can kill you in one hit, or
Oh, yep.
especially a lot of them.
Sniper.
Yeah, like the sniper and especially all the melee characters can be very oppressive. And uh
Mhm.
and
Very.
so I feel like yes, like healing is really important, but you can also get by without it. I mean, yes and no, but it's like not everyone has to super hyper focus on the role. I would say the objective is way more important than than anything else, really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's actually right. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Yep. So,
'Cause if not, you lose, literally.
Yeah, like for example, you can have a like a melee character trying to flank. If they're really good at it, great. But sometimes what happens is that they'll play away from the team, and
hmm
that creates, or even the sniper will play away from the team, and maybe they're missing their shots and stuff. And
hmm
so it becomes one of those things where if you are playing sort of solo, you better be really, really good at the game,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
really trust your
Or the
team
character.
to do the objectives for you. So it kind of you kind of take
Yeah.
a risk when you play casual like that.
yeah, no, I think, and at that point, like, if you play by yourself, it's hard to communicate with the other team. So you really have to you have to really like focus on like, okay, who are they using, and how can we work together based on the Gundams that they're using, you know?
Yeah, and
Uh,
like what units counter, I mean, what mobile suits counter other mobile suits, and what mobile suits work really well on the map that you're playing on. But
mm-hmm,
I'm gonna
mm-hmm,
walk that back a little bit. Now that I think about it, I think the roles are pretty important, but it
mm-hmm.
works a lot better if you can communicate with your team. If you,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
You
So
don't
just to,
actually need a healer is the thing. It's just better to have a healer, but if you're
of
communicating
course,
well with the plan is, you don't need the healer.
yeah, of
or
course.
vice
Hmm.
versa. Like
Or vice
if
versa.
you're gonna focus on healing, then you're relying on other people to do damage for you. And
Right.
so the communication is really key when you're healing someone or picking someone up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm sure you've noticed this. Sometimes you're healing someone and they're running away from you, right?
Yep,
Um,
yep, 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 yep,
so
yep,
in
Johnny
a
boy.
situation like that, where the team isn't quite communicating with each other, focusing on your role specifically
Yeah.
might hurt your team. But at that point, you don't really have a team, do you?
I mean, yeah, I'll say like since I play the role of the healer, like the one Gundam that I use as a healer has the advantage that it can do good damage. I think it really, like you said, like it depends, really, of course, like who you're playing with, right? Like if someone just runs away, I'm trying to heal, then it's like hello, dude, I'm trying to heal you, but it's the communication again aspect of it, which we can't stress enough. Like this game, the amount of communication you need with your team is is nice. I like it. I really like that. It's like I feel like I mean like most games, like if you don't communicate, like even in like real life, right? Like you're probably not gonna do well, you know, or you may win, but it might have been because you depended on a few other players. So like I really do appreciate the fact that this free game based on a Japanese IP is like feels hardcore sometimes, you know?
It
Like
gets
you really,
sweaty.
Yeah.
you know.
That's the thing
So
too. All the
mhm.
units, oh, I'm sorry, I keep calling them units. All the mobile suits can, all of them feel like they can do a lot of damage. So I feel like they all feel viable, you know?
Yes,
Um,
yes,
but maybe that's
like
why sometimes people focus too much on the DPS and killing because it feels like
hmm
you can.
hmm yeah, no, and but you know that's kind of cool of the game though that like there's not necessarily a weak Gundam. It's just it depends on how you use them. You
Yeah.
know, like I think Sapito was, I forget again, and I forget the names of the Gundams. But like Sapito was using this one Gundam for a long time, and then he started using this other one, and after like 3 or 4 games, like he was like he it clicked with him, and he was doing really well. And then he'd go back to this the one he was using prior, and still did well. So it's like you find the Gundams that you can like click with, right? Like that suit your style. But that doesn't necessarily mean like they're like, oh, like this Gundam's weaker than this guy. Granted, there are some Gundams that have more health than others, but I feel like they compensate each other well with some of the skills that they have, or some of the power ups or speed. You know what I mean?
I like
Uh,
the selection for sure. That feels like
mhm.
all of them look different and feel different.
Yeah, and the cool thing too is that we're talking about Gundam, right? That it's one of the biggest IPs in Japan ever, and like the lore and history of Gundam is extremely rich. So like for me, it was a treat to recognize some of these Gundams because I mean for me Gundam is more of a new thing that I've started getting into. You know that I'm currently watching Iron Blooded Orphans on Netflix. It's
Hells
phenomenal.
yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my god, that's the Barbatos. Yeah, I recognize Barbatos. And uh, like it's like if you know Gundam and if you've watched Gundam, you'll get a kick out of like playing as some of the Gundams you recognize from the TV shows. And I'm sure you, Cochino, like you were. I mean, did you fanboy just a little bit?
I mean,
You know.
sure, yeah. I mean, there were some that I had to look up, but yeah, they're very iconic. Did you know? Do you know which? So you like to use Methus, right?
Yes. Yes.
Do you know which Gundam it's from? Which series?
I don't actually, and I'm ashamed to say that.
It's from Gundam Zeta.
Gundam Zeta.
That's the sequel to the original Gundam series from Gundam 1978.
Oh, was this before the Char movie? The Char's was it Char's counterattack?
Char's Counterattack? Yeah. So it goes from the original Gundam series that came out in 1978, then Zeta, which takes place 7 years after the events of the original Gundam, and also I think
Mm-hmm.
came out in 1985, and
Oh,
then
cool.
Double Zeta, which follows Zeta Gundam. Some of the plot elements that revolve around the main characters, Amuro and Char,
Mm-hmm.
were supposedly saved from Double Zeta once the Char counterattack movie got greenlit. So Char's counterattack
Oh,
takes place directly after Double Zeta,
Interesting.
and then like Hathaway's Flash, which is a Netflix movie, is essentially a sequel to Char's counterattack, and then there's a bunch of other OVAs and smaller stuff in between all that. There's like
oh yeah,
there's Victory
Yeah.
Gundam and there's
mm-hmm.
Unicorn Gundam. So all that takes place in this big Marvel-esque connected timeline, and then there's like a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of other alternate timelines where you probably recognize Gundam Wing and stuff like that.
Yep,
G
yep.
Gundam.
Going
Which
through the
what
rabbit hole of the timelines is, whew, it's fun.
it's
Takes a
fun,
couple
yeah.
hours to
I I'm
really do
kind
it
of
properly, I feel like.
I'm kind of surprised that they didn't put a single Gundam Wing character. I was
Cochino
like,
makes a good point about that. If you would let me
Yeah.
say yeah.
So I wonder if you look at the selection of mobile suits in the game, they're mostly from that original UC timeline that has all the sequels in it, which is
oh,
probably the right move in terms of like the most nostalgic mobile suits from for Japanese fans. And the game is a
I
Japanese
s-
game, Japanese developers, so
oh,
you would imagine they would kind of not necessarily cater more towards that, but probably the mobile suits that came to them first, or maybe even easier to get. I don't know if there's like a licensing thing, probably not,
good
but like
point.
also Gundam Wing and G Gundam were the first couple Gundam shows that were separate and alternate from the original timeline, so they're not as well received
Hmm.
in Japan as they are in the US. Because in the US they
Yeah.
were on Toonami,
Hmm.
and a lot of people know just how ridiculous G Gundam was. It was kind of like the Dragon Ball Z or the Fist of
Yeah,
the North
yeah,
Star of the Gundam series. So,
yeah.
so over in Japan, they might not be as nostalgic for those mobile suits. That being said, I would love to see Tall Geese or Ebion from Gundam Wing
Hell
in the game. That'd be
yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, tall geese. Oh, what that's that. Yes,
Dude.
yes, completely.
Yeah.
But you know what? Now
Yeah.
that you mentioned that, that's really cool though. Like, if anything, it just tells me how like the creators are really focused on like what they want in the game, and I don't know. Like for me, that just speaks volumes to the care, right? Like they could have just they could have just done a Super Smash Bros of Gundams, and just put all the Gundams from everywhere and
I mean,
just.
I would play that though.
I mean, of course, we would too.
Oh,
I
dude,
know,
yeah, dude,
totally,
yeah, eat that
totally.
up.
Like, I wouldn't. I'm not saying the game would be worse for it, but I like the fact that they kind of just went like, let's just stick with this timeline, uh, and stick with these Gundams. Like, I don't know. There's something quite thoughtful about that I can't quite pinpoint. But I like that. I like that. Like, granted, I would love to play as Heavy Arms. So let's go a little bit about. So thank you for that, CochinoNasty. That was fantastic for a great amount of context for the game. Let's quickly talk about some of the graphics of the game. And I know I like to point out that graphics don't really make the game, but there are a few things that we should definitely point out. And I'll just start real quick saying that the graphics are serviceable. They are not the most amazing graphics you'll ever see, and by that I mean
Dude.
like
Yeah.
it sometimes looks like a PlayStation 2 game, you know, and it I'm not expecting the game to look like God of War, but I like the details and things, and for me, like, the maps were a big disappointment for me for a bit. It like I felt like I was playing human-sized Gundams in human-sized maps. You know what I mean? Uh, I never felt like I was playing like a big robot. And then apparently, then later on, they started adding maps with like bigger structures, with like small cars that you could see like parked, or small tanks, to kind of get the idea of the size of these things, which I really appreciate. But again, like, very very serviceable. You know, like, they do a job. They're there. Cool. The guns look great. Well, I'll say that. Well, I mean, what do you guys think? Like, was that something that detracted a little bit, or is this just me being too harsh?
Honestly, the graphics didn't matter to me. Like, they were fine.
Good.
Cause like they were passable, sure. Like, yeah, things could be better. There's games that are better, da 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 da, for sure, right? But like, to have
Mm.
Gundams, like, finally, it's just like, let's just get it going. Like, let's go. It's I'm so happy to have a cool Gundam game that isn't just like toy Gundams, or just like some I don't know, just mobile game for a Gundam or whatever. Like, to me, it's like a solid PC game, free to play, solid PC game, and I think you should give it a shot if you haven't played like Overwatch, and you should kind of ignore it, like, if the graphics or whatever, it's just gonna run better.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think
No.
there's a Gundam game called Gundam Versus, which is more of a arena shooter game, more of a fighting game almost.
Okay.
But and that game has pretty good graphics, and there's definitely other Gundam games that have pretty good graphics too, but this is not
Mm.
one of them.
Mm-mm.
But I agree, it's not something that I'm really paying attention to.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like, because the maps are very simplistic, it allows the models to like really shine. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it's like you can recognize a lot of these a lot of the Gundams from like far away. You know, because I guess there's not a lot of flash on the map, uh, which I really enjoy. Like, if you look into just the models of the Gundams, like, they look fantastic. They make me want to buy models to build. You know what I mean?
Yes, dude,
Which I
for
have.
sure.
I've gotten 3 models now that I've been playing the game. Like, granted, 2 of them are small, but
That's
like,
the number one thing about this game, like regardless of how you value it as a video game, it's kind of done its goal, for me at least, of getting me back into, the lore and watching the shows and buying the
same.
kits and building the Gunplas and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a giant commercial for their toys,
Totally.
the whole franchises really. Um,
Yeah. Like, I got 2 gun like they're I got these from Target. They literally took me like maybe half an hour to build. Very very easy. But I was like, I was into it. I was like literally looking in going to Target with my wife, and I'm like, I'm gonna go check out the toy section and just like look at the Gunplas, because I've been playing this game so often, and right now I have a Gunpla that's one of the Chibi uh Gundams.
SD.
The Thank you, yes, SD, one of those SD Chibi Gundams, and this one's a little harder. Like, this is definitely gonna take me some more time, but I'm into it. Like I've been looking at the parts. I got like the X-Acto knife. I plan on like definitely marking some of it, which is something I didn't do on my last model that I built. But it's like, yeah, you're right. Like the game got me watching Gundam and buying Gundam models. So yeah, good job.
If you start building more Gundam kits, I recommend buying these nippers called God Hand nippers. They're really nice. They'll cut the parts from the runners really smoothly, cut them like butter.
Ooh.
Nice.
Okay, hold up. God, man, I'm probably gonna
Like
buy this right now.
butter. Like
Yeah, I'm probably
butter.
gonna buy this right now. um, and yeah, and the last thing I'll mention about like graphics too, or regarding graphics and presentation, I should say instead of graphics. The sound effects are very much from the show, which is really all I asked for. Like the you can customize the voices that you hear on you know how like when you play Overwatch and you pick a character, like they have their own like distinctive voice, right? Like they have a voice actor that plays the character, la 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 la. But while you play the game, they'll say quips and things and stuff like that. Well, you can do that with Gundam, and you can actually uh, switch the voices around depending on your Gundam. So like for Mathis, I have God, like I wish I knew where this voice came from, but it's one of the I recognize the voice actress. Anyway, like the fact that you can do that, pick from a wide range of different characters. Technically, the music is pretty serviceable. The guns, I think, or the sound effects of the guns sound great. Like the original Gundam, the gun, I think, like the sound that this laser makes is very iconic. And when you shoot that laser, it's like, oh, like you just takes you back to that 1970s cartoon. You know what I mean? Uh, in terms of presentation, I think the game does a good job. It does what it needs to do, and you bring up a good point, Master Rain. It's more meant to like we want this to work on as many computers as possible.
It does. It does. It
Mhm.
really does. So it's doing it right, but truth be told, the player count kind of dwindled recently because of other releases, and
Of
I don't
course.
blame it because of other issues that the game currently has
Hmm.
that honestly should be addressed.
Yeah, we will get to those in a moment. What do you guys think of the skills and the abilities, I should say? What do you guys think about the abilities that each of the Gundams provide? Like, was there any Gundam that you felt like was useless, or maybe if another Gundam that was like too much in terms of the abilities? Like,
I think some of I wouldn't say none of them are useless, but some select ones are very overtuned, where it feels like they don't require too much um, skill to use, but
okay.
they're kind of a win button regardless. And others, might require you to aim,
Hmm.
um, which wouldn't be a problem if all of them were as simple as the other, I guess. But
Hmm.
I guess I wouldn't want them to all feel the same.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and I think now that you mentioned that, I think the game before you pick the Gundam, on the top left side of the screen, it tells you the difficulty of
Yeah,
using
like the
that
expected
Gundam.
difficulty.
Yeah, and the quote unquote archetype. Kind of like a mid range, close quarters. Um,
Actually,
and
never
just
played this one mobile suit, the Zaku Melee, but
Zaku Melee. Ah, really?
Yeah,
it's
I played that one a
special.
Oh,
lot.
Its
but
ultimate is crazy.
is that the
Hmm.
one that's locked on the paywall?
That's one of the premium ones, and
Uh,
I don't know whether it's because people aren't used to playing it because it's behind a paywall or
yeah.
playing against it, but its ultimate just wrecks entire teams.
I hate
Dude,
that guy.
dude, yeah, it's wow.
Well,
And if people don't know how to play against him, like it's just bad news
yeah,
all
I think
around.
I think Cochino, you mentioned it. Actually, there was a game I distinctively remember. There was a game. I think it was Domination, and we were fighting this guy, and you said whenever he stops and like starts blinking, kind of like it starts like blinking lights, it means that it's powering up its special. You said, don't shoot at it, don't shoot at it, it'll only power him faster. And like immediately I was like, oh, so that's how he does it. Because I can't pick him. I can't pick him and like figure him out, right? Like, and once we got that, then of course he was a little more manageable to like fight against. But yeah, that paywall, I don't know. I mean, yeah, what is it, like $20?
You can earn them, but it takes a minute.
Oh God, yeah, it takes a minute.
Yeah, you can earn one, and then you can pick which one you're gonna pick. But then there's like 4 or 5 Gundams that you can unlock. That each one of them are like honestly
They're pretty good.
strong in their own right. Yeah, compared to the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Apex does a very similar thing where you have to like, the more you play, the more you can unlock certain characters. So this is nothing new. It's nothing new. It's just, it kind of, I don't know. It's just it's like whenever you find those characters in the wild, because there's definitely a few mechs that I've only seen maybe once or twice. It can really throw off the game, just because we're not used to playing against them, But I guess it spiced things up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's supposedly a pretty high skill floor for, I feel like, 2 of the best mobile suits in the game, Exia and Barbatos, the 2 melee characters. But yeah, they tend to do pretty well, unless the person playing them is like not so good. But generally, they're so strong.
Even then, yeah.
And but Melee Zaku, on the other hand, is considered one of the easier characters to play. I think it has like a lower difficulty on the stars that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I mean, it looks like it too. Like, I think out of all the melee characters, he seems to be the easiest. I mean, I'm tempted to just buy the damn thing and just try him out.
I have enough currency to buy another unit right now, and I've been thinking about getting the melee myself. They actually had a balance patch not too long ago, and
Good.
a lot of them were kind of focused on increasing ammo for a lot of the range units and making things less effective at range or at close range and stuff. And some of the melee characters got a tiny buff, but if you play the game, you don't really notice anything different. At least I don't.
Yeah, we'll have to see once you buy it.
I mean, like, well, yeah, but I mean, just playing against them. The nerfs and the buffs don't feel that consequential, or maybe I'm reading the patch notes wrong, but nothing really feels drastically different.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's pretty neat that they're doing that. In regards to the game modes, I mean, I mentioned that I think I read 3 game modes, and I'm pretty sure there's only 3, right? There's the capturing the point, the bomb one, which is like you either defend or attack, and then the what's the other one? Sorry, let me reread these again real quick. There's point capture, there is domination, and then there's destruction. Am I missing a mode? That sounds about it, right?
Yeah, there's no team deathmatch, I'm pretty sure.
No, not that I've seen.
No.
So let's just touch on these real quick. Like, the game clearly doesn't have like a myriad of game modes, but I feel like these game modes add enough, kind of switch things up a bit quite nicely. You know what I mean? Like I said, my favorite is probably point capture. There's a timer. You grab a point, you hold it for a certain amount of time, and then once that time is done, you have to go and hold another point. And it's just this constant tug of war of like holding points. Those are my favorite because it's chaotic as hell.
Oh yeah, they're nuts.
It is nuts, and I love it because I feel like when it comes to being the communication aspect of it, and like the game just like really depending on the abilities. Like this is the best mode, in my opinion. For that, like I really do think that you really have to like communicate well with like when to use certain powers, when to use certain abilities on this one to like really hold the points, and it's like it can go back and forth, and uh, I don't know, like it feels way faster to me and way more balanced because I feel like the other two, and again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the other two
Hmm.
modes made me feel like if you do not have a full squad that communicates well or knows how to play with each other, you're probably gonna fail on these modes. At least that's how I felt.
I mean, it's pretty much in every. Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, which
because
is true on
because
every.
it's 5v5, right? Or
Yeah.
is it six v six? But yeah, because of that, there's only a few people like on a team, and like one ability that can control an area or can do very well long range, and the person's good. It's gonna dominate. If a team is not doing well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Like the destruction one, I think is the hardest. Out of all of them, attacking or defending.
I
But
was gonna say that
yeah,
I'm not sure if I really have a game mode that I dislike. It's mostly maps I dislike, but I will say that particular one
Right.
is very challenging.
the destruction, correct?
Is that the one where you plant the mega charge?
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, that one's challenging. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's these modes definitely like I never felt. The good thing about these modes is like yeah, we only mentioned three and they only have three, but I never got bored of them. You know, like I there were parts where I'm like, oh, I wish I was playing another mode, but once you get into it, you get in. You know, like like you stop. It's kind of like like Counter Strike. Like it's the same game over and over again, right? Like at least Gundam has three different modes. The maps can make or break for me the experience where it's like, okay, I played point capture on this map, and then I'm expecting to hopefully play another map, but then I think last time we played, we ended up playing like the same map three times in a row, which was
Yeah.
absurd.
And especially with how your team might be constructed or which side of the map you're defending, it almost feels like a luck of the draw thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
it can be you can be put in a bad spot right away.
Totally, totally. I do like that one map with the city and it has like a big boat.
It's like literally called
Harbor
Boat
City,
City.
maybe?
Harbor City.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. That sounds about right. Like I personally, that's one of my favorite maps. In the way it looks, the way it's built. It can be extremely difficult depending on the game mode. But
Well, it's one game mode, right? It's
oh,
just capture
actually,
the
yeah,
point and then push
that's
forward.
right.
One thing
But in
I
terms,
dislike a
mhm.
lot about a lot of the maps are just how big they are sometimes, especially for a game where you can die pretty fast. It feels like it takes
Yeah.
such a long time to get back into the action, not just to
Yes.
respawn, but just to travel to the objective and where the rest of your teammates are.
Mhm. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that because we're going to talk about the bad. Like, basically, most a concise look at all the stuff we didn't like. And to be honest, that is the first thing that came to mind to me. Like, the size of the maps are so bloody huge. It takes like
Yeah.
25 to 30 seconds from like once you
So much
respawn
huge, dude.
to
Yeah.
get to the battle. Like it's if you don't know your way around the map, which will happen to you for sure the first few times, it's infuriating because all you want to do is get in the action, right? Because they look very much alike, it gets difficult to make a mental map in your head. Like, okay, if I turn left and go straight here, like I'll make it faster. Like it's they kind of blend in with each other a little bit.
I also
And
wonder
mhm.
if it's the game's way of incentivizing people to pick up your fallen teammates more often because the penalty or it being the long respawn time slash the time it takes to get to the action or the objective is so extreme that it's in your best interest to pick up your teammates so they can continue to
Hmm.
support you and stuff. But
Let me go
I
out that
often
way. Yeah.
find that repairing your teammates often puts yourself at risk, and it's usually not the right
Yeah,
move because they probably died due to bad positioning.
Oh. No,
And
I
so
could.
yeah,
Yeah.
repairing your teammates kind of puts yourself in the line of sight, and you
Hmm.
just get blown up.
Hmm. I think that's a very good
exactly.
point.
Yeah, and so it's you have to at least the Methus, like at least like that healer, they can fly out. So if somebody like grenades or whatever, you can just like pop out and fly out, but you don't fly for very long, and you're just a slow flying target.
Oh my God, yes. Like I got you, bro. Bam, headshot.
Yeah, dude, I've headshot so many Asihars or whatever they're pronounced or called. Like I've headshot them so many times. As soon as they like transform like back into the like the mobile suit mecha, whatever, it like boom headshot as a sniper, like in the middle of the air. It's satisfying, but it's actually kind of easy.
Yeah, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be picking people up.
I think they would kind of need to either change the revive times or to change like how maybe like certain things like the Methus or like the Unicorn, like those specific Gundams, how fast they can revive, right? Because like obviously there's one other Gundam like the Gun Tank that can revive a lot faster. Makes
Mhm,
sense how in a cycle of the team how you can have a Gundam like that,
mhm,
but I don't know. He's not that Gundam's not a healer, right?
mhm,
So
But if
mhm.
you reduce the repair time, would people then complain about how hard it is to kill people?
I don't know. It's something that I we'll have to see. Depends. I mean, if people are complaining that like for example, as a Methus, oh my gosh, every time that like I'm trying to revive somebody, just get blasted, or something like that. Maybe it's
Mhm.
time for it to be adjusted. But just an example. But you're right though. Every time something is adjusted, there's a repercussion to it. So yeah, it needs to be adjusted and balanced correctly. But it feels like playing the game right now, things are pretty balanced, but it feels like balancing still needs to happen further.
Mhm.
Especially, so here's the thing with Apex too. Apex, when a new legend comes out, the new legend isn't OP compared to the other ones. They just have
Yeah.
abilities that are better, not better, different than the other ones. So if you don't know those abilities, you can get it. You can really get destroyed, right? But they're not meant to be better in any way. They're just meant to be different but balanced. Whereas in Gundam, it kind of feels like it's a little unbalanced with the Gundams that you have to or the Gundams that you can purchase. The one thing that kind of makes me sad though, it's like whenever we start looking for matches, and it's just like, man, it's not no one here. Where are they? It's just honestly, they're a lot of other people are playing all the games now.
I was playing, yeah, you can only play casual. Um,
Pretty much, yeah.
but I was playing pretty late last night, and
Uh huh.
of course the ranked queue was not going, but even the casual queue got really slow, and I felt like it
Oh
was
man.
way harder because I think all the people that were usually playing ranked were playing casual at that
Oh
time.
Yeah.
no.
It
Yeah.
was pretty bad, and yeah. Should we talk about
Damn.
the connection issues and stuff? Because I think that plays a lot
Ye-
into the experience as well.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
yes.
let's go for it. What do you have to say about
Yes.
that, Cochino Nasty?
Well, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. The game isn't very stable, and you have either people rage quitting a lot or just having just connection issues. I've had a couple games where the game just quits on me, or even have this weird issue where it turns my monitors black and I have to hard
Mhm,
reset my computer.
mhm,
But yeah, what happens a lot is you'll get queued up either at the beginning of the round or in between rounds, and
mhm,
someone will drop out, and it's not always clear whether it's because they're losing and not having their way and decided they don't
Hmm.
want to waste their time anymore, or if it's because they're
yeah.
having legitimate connection issues.
Yeah.
And it sucks because if you drop a player, I mean that makes a huge impact on your gameplay experience, and the game doesn't really do anything to to kind of mitigate that. They don't really drop other players in, or
Hmm.
I don't know if a bot would be useful in a situation like that,
Yeah, actually. Huh.
but yeah, it's just it's pretty discouraging to know that you've pretty much already lost the game. I've had a few games where we've managed to beat the other team 5 versus 6, but it's a
Mm.
pretty uphill battle.
And it's also very rare, you know. I think most of the time, you know, luck of the draw, right? Like you'll get someone
Hmm.
that can like play a certain role like very well. And I've definitely been in some of those matches too, where it's like someone leaves, we're somehow still playing, and it ends up being a lot closer than I thought, you know. But
Yeah.
that's not always the case. And you know what? I think that's the biggest problem with the game. To be honest, like everything else that I've thought about is somewhat minor, to be honest. Uh, but geez, the connection problems, like you've had, Master N has, uh, it's happened to me a few times. To me, not as consistently as everyone else, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you there's been there was, I think, what was it like? There's been there was one instance where it took 25 to 30 minutes for us to even get into a game, and that's just
Was
us
that the
like
ranked
shooting it.
game?
No, it was
No,
casual
it was casual. Yeah.
because
Oh my
we
God,
would
that's
go
right.
in, someone would get disconnected, the game would end, and so we have to wait till the person unbans themselves for like
You would
five
get
six minutes.
penalized
Oh,
too
that's right.
for
That's
a lot
so
of
horrible,
the
bro.
disconnections that aren't even really your fault.
No, and so it's, you
That's a
know,
big ass problem, dude.
yeah.
That is
So
one Gundam
that's
problem.
that's that's my biggest that's one of my biggest like red flags for the
Also,
game.
yeah. Oh yeah, big time, dude. Big
Uh
time, big time, dude.
all right, so I think we've pretty much talked about the game as a whole. I mean, the game again is not like that huge. So, let's just talk about our overall experience. Master Rain, let's start with you. Like what was your
Yeah.
overall experience with the game, and how would you what would be your rating?
Overall experience is very happy. I'm very happy with playing Gundam Evolution. Honestly because it's got me back into Gundam. I started watching Iron Blooded Orphans. I've almost finished with it. Uh, I want to start watching like a lot of other Gundams now, and I have always liked Gundam. There's just that I just didn't know where to start because as we talked about earlier, that timeline is craziness. So I literally didn't know where to go, right? But now, oh my gosh, this Gundam's awesome. Why don't I watch this show? Oh, hey, actually, this one's a totally just like its own universe. Perfect place to start back with Gundam. So yeah, if anybody from Gundam and Gundam Corporation is listening, like that game actually wants me to watch Gundam again. Please pay attention to that game. Like seriously, dude. In the same way, literally in the same way that a Netflix show like Arcane can make people go and play League of Legends, in that same way, it's like vice versa. A game that's pretty tight like Gundam will make people go and watch the show. So please, like, continue doing a good job. Now, right now, my rating for the game is honestly like I really feel like it probably deserves more like a 6, but it's like it's probably like man, with those the way that the connections issues happen, and like in the way the fact that there's not a way to get into a good ranked, I feel like I want to give it more like a 6. My heart wants to give it a 7. I feel like more like a 6 because like yeah, the graphics aren't like the best, but like the truth is, yeah, I might give it a 6, but I'm gonna play that so much more than something I may have given an 8 in recent times because of just the fact that I want to play it more. But I cannot ignore all of the issues that it has.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Dude,
that was pretty good. Uh-huh.
I'm with you. I think the game actually is kind of missing a huge opportunity right now with the new anime that's out right now, Gundam Witch from Mercury. They should they
Yeah.
should put that new unit in there, and or the
Right
new mobile
now,
suit,
yeah.
the
Well,
newest one, Gundam Aerial.
that's funny you mentioned it. They actually give out like trinkets
Yeah, there's an
in the
in-game
game.
promotion for the
Yeah.
show right now,
Hmm.
but I think they should put the Gundam Aerial in there, and they'll really get people who become fans of the show, or if the show continues to be good, which it is. then more people would want to play Gundam Aerial in Gundam Evolution.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mostly agree with Master Rain. I think that it's a fun Overwatch-esque game. When it clicks, it really clicks when when you have good chemistry with your teammates and everything is just working. Win or lose, the game is pretty fun. But then there's also a lot of frustrating parts, and you can get bad luck with matchmaking and just get overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
it's janky. It's a janky,
Yeah.
fun game that honestly is a little hard to recommend unless you're
Mhm.
really into games like that and Gundam and or. But it's a fun game for sure.
Okay.
At the end of the day, exactly. It's a really fun game.
Okay. I mean, I agree with what you guys said. We're all in the kind of like the same boat, right? Like, I like the customization. You know, like you can get the customization of the voices, the Gundams that you can like make. You put your own trinkets on it. Like, if you ever played any like team first person shooter in the past 5 to 10 years, like it has it. Like this Gundam Evolution has all the stuff you expect. You know, like the battle passes, the customization, the this, the that, the game modes. But overall, I feel the same. Where it's like this game has provided a lot of fun. It's provided a lot of very awesome matches, some very awesome moments. Uh, but a lot of that has to do with who you're playing with. If you play with a group of friends that are into it and communicate and just like like you have fun with each other, like then the game becomes an 8, a 9 out of 10, right? Just because of the fun factor.
Oh, just because of that,
Yeah,
100%.
right,
Yes.
100%. And
And you
I mean,
ignore all of the issues.
like, but again, it's like there's a you have to like, for example, like CochinoNasty mentioned, like he's very new to the game, but like he was able to like pick it up and all that. But I'm pretty sure like, and correct me if I'm wrong, CochinoNasty, like you said, like because the IP is so recognizable to you, you gave it more time, or so that's kind of how it feels. Like if this was something else, I feel like would you feel like you would have like maybe not have given it that much time or tried to play it more often, like
Yeah, I mean, I
or
think nostalgia is fueling a lot of the player base right now in the
mm,
sense that I think there's probably more Gundam fans than shooter fans, I guess you could say, FPS
mm-hmm,
fans.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so maybe that's part of the reason why some of the matchmaking is so lopsided sometimes, because you have a lot of people who are playing an FPS game for the first time, maybe.
Mm,
Um,
That's
but
facts.
yeah,
Facts.
yeah. Yeah, but
That makes sense. Actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
where I'm getting at with this though is that like Gundam Evolution, I think it's a great entry point for anyone that wants to like get into the more like your Modern Warfares, your Overwatches, like more games that are sadly more polished, compared to this one. But I think
Yeah.
like Gundam Evolution it's a good game, or there's a good game in Gundam Evolution. uh,
Right, right, right.
so I'm with you. I think for me it's a 6. It's kind of hard to recommend unless you already know the IP. So if you know it, you'll enjoy it for sure. Or B, if you like first person shooters, like you'll get some fun out of it, because it does have a bit of depth to it. It's a fun game for what it is. I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely gonna still gonna be playing it for sure. Uh, but just like Master Rain and CochinoNasty mentioned, I think the biggest, most the biggest win for this game is that it's introducing or reigniting the interest of a Gundam to its audience, right? Like I'm in the same boat as Master Rain. I'm rewatching some of the old Gundam. I'm watching Iron Blooded Orphans. I'm buying the Gunpla. Like it's doing its job. It's on my mind, and I think that's a huge win for the creators. And I can definitely think of this game in a few years and think fondly of it. I'm like, yeah, that was fun. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Give it a try it. And if you have a friend that's also interested, try it with your friend. Like you'll have a good time.
You'll have fun. It's fun.
It's free.
It's fun.
But that's it for today's episode. Thank you again, CochinoNasty, for joining us. I've been looking forward to having you on the podcast, and it just fills me with so much joy to have you and talking Gundam, with you and Master Rein. So again, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, CochinoNasty.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so that's it for today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, Twitch, where we stream 2 to 3 times a week. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. Remember to leave us a comment. Again, thank you again, all of y'all, for joining us. Master Rein, you got any last few words for our audience?
Just make sure to also, to keep an eye out on Twitch for all of the live streams. We might be changing up the schedule a little bit here out, so just keep an eye out for that schedule change.
Yeah. A lot of life is gonna be happening soon. So
yes,
we'll still be here. We'll still be releasing some content. It's just the next year is gonna be very different from what we've done before. But we'll give you guys more information as we move along. But anyway, this is Silly Squirrel and Master Rein signing out. And remember, guys, always heal your teammates before they die. Peace out.
Peace, everybody.